A man who's really doing well, if you believe in polls. I believe in polls. Only the ones that have us up, because they're the only honest. You know, they take these polls, they show them, I say, that can't be right.
If you look at the polls, the Senate, everybody says we're doing very well. But the House, I think we're doing almost as well with regard to the House. You know, they call it a generic poll. And actually, the Republicans are doing well in the generic poll. But I don't know that a generic poll means anything, because they're individual races, the House.
That's President Trump last night talking about the polls, first at that rally in Erie, Pennsylvania, then in a phone interview with Fox News. And joining us now, national political correspondent for NBC News and MSNBC, Steve Kornacki. His excellent new book is The Red and the Blue, the 1990s and the Birth of Political Tribalism. Steve, good morning. We love having you in the slot every morning. We got some new polls, including one just out a few minutes ago in Texas. What does it tell you?
Yeah, new Ted Cruz Beto O'Rourke Senate poll. It has Cruz up 9 points from Quinnipiac, 54 to 45. And again, I think there have been about a dozen polls now since Labor Day in that race. Only one of them has had Beto O'Rourke ahead. It was a few weeks ago. So Cruz, I think just the totality of the polls clearly ahead out there.
Yeah, you look at the other states. So let's look at Tennessee. Well, actually, we looked at Tennessee yesterday, but Tennessee, like Texas, are critical for Democrats. If Texas has always been sort of an outside shot, but there are a lot of these states like Tennessee that also seem to be slipping away from Democrats, even though we have 26 states left. Anything can happen. But let's look at why don't we go to Nevada? Heller was, again, he was supposed to be the incumbent that was in the biggest danger, but here we have another poll that actually shows him up to, that's still in the margin of error, but again, more evidence that every Republican is doing better post-Kavanaugh, at least in the Senate.
Yeah, that is the second Nevada poll in 2 days. We had our own NBC Marist poll that showed, as you say, the identical results. So now you've got two polls out this week. The one on your screen there is from the New York Times and Siena. Two polls showing that 2-point lead for Dean Heller. A couple things when you start looking inside the numbers there in Nevada. One of the things that powered Democrats in the Obama era to some sizable victories in Nevada was extremely strong support and extremely strong turnout from Hispanic voters in Nevada. In that New York Times Upshot poll, not necessarily seeing that same divide. Also, there was a new poll out yesterday down in Arizona, a poll from the ABC affiliate in Arizona, significantly the first poll in Arizona since Labor Day to show Martha McSally, the Republican, taking a lead in that race over Kyrsten Sinema, the Democrat. Every poll since Labor Day, besides this one, had Sinema ahead there. Raises the question, has there been a turn in Arizona that's similar to what we've seen in Tennessee, potentially in Nevada, potentially in other states, or are we going to see more polls out of Arizona prove this one to be more of an outlier? But again, it would seem at least to fit into the trend of this week, Republicans at least doing very well in these Senate polls and in a couple House polls as well.
So, Steve, you put those together, Tennessee, Texas, Nevada, Arizona. Is there a theme with all four? Is it political gravity setting in those states?
Yeah, I mean, you're starting to see the idea here of the Republican base, the sort of latent Republican voter. You know, Republicans have been trying to get them interested, trying to wake them up, and I think you're starting to see that in those numbers. The question we've been asking all week is this: you know, the Kavanaugh effect has been debated. Is does this last until Election Day? Because remember, if you just the course of this year, there have been moments when it looked like Republicans weren't just headed for defeat in November, but were headed for epic defeat. There have been moments when it's perked back up. Republicans, I think it's safe to say Republicans have been getting some of their best polling news in the last week. Absolutely on the Senate side, and even in some individual House races, not necessarily the generic poll in the House, but some individual House races, they've been getting very encouraging news. But again, 3 weeks from now, what are we going to be saying? That becomes the question.
It's a lifetime, especially in the age of Trump. The NBC News Marist poll checked in on the Senate races in Minnesota. In the special election for Al Franken's seat, interim Senator Tina Smith has a 16-point lead. She's the Democrat, of course, while Democratic Senator Amy Klobuchar is leading her Republican opponent by 30 points now with likely voters. And it's looking slightly over the east in Wisconsin, where Democratic Senator Tammy Baldwin is holding strong in the Marquette University Law School poll. She is up by 10 points in her bid for a second term, while Republican Governor Scott Walker has the slightest of leads as he seeks a third term, leading Democrat Tony Evers 47 to 46. Last month, Evers was ahead by 5 points, Joe. So as you look at all these, Joe, from start to finish here, what do you see?
Well, I see right now the Republicans getting a huge bump out of the Kavanaugh hearings. I think a lot of Americans, especially a lot of Republicans, didn't like what they saw during those hearings coming from the Democratic side of the aisle. But Rick Tyler, I remember 3 weeks out, Donald Trump was down, 10, 11, 12 points. We bring it up all the time here that we were castigated on this set for even saying there still was a race. In fact, I said 3 weeks is a lifetime, 2 weeks is a lifetime, 1 week is a lifetime, and the countdown, and that is the case. So right now, Republicans are looking pretty strong. Right now, at this point in 2016, Hillary Clinton was looking pretty strong. A lot can change in 3 weeks, can't it?
It can change. A lot can change in 3 weeks, Joe, and it did in the 2016 race. I would be a little, less hard on our pollsters in 2016. I don't know that they all got it wrong. I think tracking the Electoral College made it difficult to predict that President Trump would be president because he would have to essentially run the table. But as Election day approaches, polls, generally always tighten up. Republicans are more reliable voters in the off season, but they weren't motivated. And I agree with you that the Kavanaugh hearings had a dramatically positive effect for Republicans, and the reason is, one, it energized the Trump base, but it also energized a lot of Republicans who aren't necessarily Trump supporters, who might be looking for an alternative governing party. And what they saw on the Senate Judiciary Committee with the abandonment of the presumption of innocence on the Judiciary Committee, which I think is in some ways disqualifying, the Republicans said no, or those Republicans said no, this is not the alternative we were seeking.
Yeah, it certainly did seem to be like a motivator. And as far as polls go in 2016, you are right. A lot of the polls got it right. Hillary Clinton ended up winning by 2-3%, almost 3 million votes. And so, Donnie Deutsch, things could tighten up. I suspect they will tighten up, and we'll have another churn over the next 1, 2, 3 weeks. But boy, looking back, assessing what went on during the Kavanaugh hearings, there is no doubt, as somebody that studies branding, there's no doubt that at least for Senate candidates, the Kavanaugh hearings were a disaster for the Democratic Party.
I think that the numbers speak out, but there's also one other number that just came in the latest political poll, that the enthusiasm gap, which you always point to as kind of, to me, the tell, and I agree with you, is back up to about 9 points in terms of the enthusiasm Democrats for Republicans. So that's a little bit of good news against those other numbers. I think what you're seeing, there is this chest out bump that the Republicans they're feeling strong, they're feeling successful. But I do think over 3 weeks, fear and anger will win out over satisfaction. And I think what's also Republican, which sways to the Democrats, is fear and anger of what happened and what will continue to happen if there's no guardrail on Trump. One interesting thing, working with the DNC, what they've gone back to is their knitting. And the message is health care, health care, health care. They're going to take away your health care. And I think the Democrats really realize as quick as they can turn the page on this, and all of the local races by a 2 to 3 to 1 margin, the one issue that people more than the economy for the first time are voting on in health care, and that plays to the Democrats, which is the reason that Trump put all those falsehoods in the USA Today op-ed about health care.
Steve Kornacki, thank you very much. We'll see you tomorrow. Still ahead, a bipartisan group of senators is calling for an investigation into the disappearance of Washington Post columnist Jamal Khashoggi. We'll be joined by one of those lawmakers, a member of the Foreign Relations Committee, Senator Chris Murphy. That's next on Morning Joe.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.